Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Link. The Link is your weekly show brought to you by the APLA Health Prevention Department and is a collaboration with Pyromedianetwork, funded by the CDC. I'm Rogelio, one of your hosts, the program coordinator of our Trans Connections program. And you may notice that we don't have Kai today, but we have a very special guest filling in. We're going to start to rotate a few of the positions just so you get an idea or a chance to meet some of the other people who are part of the team. So I'll let Nigel introduce himself, but I'll throw it over to Ty and Daniel first.
I am Ty. Welcome to another great episode of The Link. I am excited for today. I am the outreach coordinator for prevention. Nice to see you all again. And welcome, Nigel.
He's so cute. What's going on, everybody? This is your favorite prevention training specialist, the fabulous, the wonderful Daniel J, and I'm here to get into the topic of mental health. Let's get at it.
Hi, my name is Nigel. I'm the new prevention training specialist from Project Impact. Longtime fan, first-time guest, so I'm really happy to be here.
Come on, fans.
Oh, that was cute.
Right. I'm glad to see that we're reaching people. So today we have a very special show. We're going to be having our part 2 of the conversation that we started last week about mental health. Just to give you a bit of a refresher, we did a little bit of a mental health check-in, talked about some of our personal experiences with therapy. And today we have a special guest, Marty, who will be joining us. He is a therapist who is going to be able to give us his perspective. I'm sure that we have a lot of questions ready, so I'm excited to bring on our guest, Marty. Oh, yeah, and the first section after that is going to be What's Poppin', our pop culture segment. So yeah, our pop culture segment, we talk about what's going on in the world, in entertainment, news, all of that. So what has been on everybody's mind?
I'll start. The Grammys was on Sunday. I know the Grammys have turned into kind of like a thing that you really don't watch because none of your favorite artists get nominated, nor do they win. And I get the hoopla prior to the Grammys and then also what we're seeing on Twitter after the Grammys. But I do want to send a major shout out to Kaytranada for winning the best dance electronic record. Bringing house back is it's a beautiful thing to see another queer POC win a Grammy on an album that was just so good. Nigel, you know what I'm talking about. That album was amazing.
Kaytranada's phenomenal.
Oh,
he's been doing it for years. The fact that he was nominated for Best New Artist just this year when he's been putting out fire for years.
He's been around forever, and it's like it's so funny to see the evolution of house through him. I think that he gave us a classic house album. House is like the staple of like our community. It's beautiful to see. I enjoyed it. I bought the album. I play the album every day when I'm cleaning. I don't know if the other two co-hosts are a big fan of house music, but definitely check out Kaytranada.
No, yeah, I'm a huge fan of house, and he's I've been a long fan of some of his features in the past, so I was really happy to see that.
So I will dance to a wonderful little, house go-go music. So that's my thing. So shout outs to him. I have to give a shout out to my girlfriend and just amazing vocalist, Miss Lettucey. Honey, Lettucey won Best R&B Performance for Anything For You, which is an amazing song. This is someone that I have worked with personally, someone I know personally, and to see her in her element, to know that she's doing such great R&B music, singing the house down, and finally getting her Grammy. Shout outs to her. I think that's really just the biggest what's popping. Like the Grammys was popping, fashions were popping. Doja Cat looked like, an anime Muppet combination. We didn't know what was going on with that.
I
give it out to
lived,
Lizzo, though.
I
Lizzo,
enjoyed it.
She always brings the visuals.
Lizzo with that after party, honey, and she had her bedazzled flask and her bedazzled barrettes, and I was here for that. And speaking of the Megan, Megan Thee Stallion.
3-time Grammy Award winner.
Look, she was asked at an after party after the Grammys if, the Grammys were rigged. And Megan's response was so iconic to me for her. She said, "Bitch, no, you win some, you lose some." And I mean,
she got
like,
a point.
Well,
right. Easy to say when you're winning.
You can't let the hand that feeds you.
with 3,
Right.
that's something to say.
I did want to bring
I don't
something
think
up.
that we can.
Oh, sorry. You
Oh,
can go ahead. No, I wanted to
I
bring
was gonna
something
say, I
up
don't think
relating
that
to
we
the.
can end it.
Sorry. I was going to say that one of the things that I read actually was that the viewership of the Grammys was down 53% from last year, and it was a record low. So like less and less people are watching the Grammys, even though we're still, all stuck in our houses a year later. So
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to get your all's opinion on that because, for a long time, people call it the scammies. They say it's rigged. They say that people who are meant to win never do, and that people are snubbed, and particularly a lot of like artists of color and that kind of thing. So
Very much
what's
so,
your
yeah.
take on all of that? Do we agree with Miss Megan?
I guess at some point, so being someone that works in music, I guess at some point you kind of realize that the Grammys it's too structured to a point where I feel like if you are creating, not even creating, if you have an academy of people who are very, very talented, very, very good ear to kind of like assist and aid in picking and choosing what album of the year or who's in the category for R&B of the year, you're missing out on an entire population of people that don't listen to mainstream music. So I don't believe that the Grammys is substantial. I don't believe that it's one of the things that it used to be where people are trying to go out of their way to get a Grammy just because it's really a popularity contest. It's how many charity events can you do? How many favors can you do? What makes sense for the moment? I mean, we just saw a whole bunch of tweets about Nicki Minaj not winning a Grammy. And I hate to use her as an example, but it's the truth. If you're not doing these things to get yourself on that platform to win a Grammy, because we all know Nicki Minaj had a decade. She was a decade artist. It was not just a year reign. If you didn't like her songs, that's fine. They still were number one. So it's a popularity contest almost. But shout out to Beyonce for being the most nominated or the most female, whatever. Shout out to that. That's really great.
Despite being snubbed twice for best album, but
absolutely, yeah, that's definitely happened.
When it comes to the Grammys, I feel like at the end of the day, we've all had the conversation about the Grammys snubbing artists of color, not properly nominating certain people, not allowing certain people to win. And we've seen the discussions, we've seen the forums about, let's cancel the Grammys, let's, do our own thing, Black and brown artists. Here's just my overall take. The Grammys are a prestigious award. You're not going to get away from that. But if you are a person of color and you believe that the Grammy is something that is biased in their choosing, I would not put much stock in whether I won or not. If I won one, great. If I didn't, who gives a damn? And I think what happens is this hypocritical dichotomy of conversation that like, oh, the Grammys is so this, the Grammys is so that, but yet you still have these artists that show up and want their award. It's like you can't have it both ways. Either you're going to have and create an award show for artists of color that is going to be as excellent and prestigious and respected as the Grammys are, or you're just going to take it with a grain of salt. I definitely feel like the Grammys is in a space where the Academy itself is trying to diversify. We have a lot of new people of color who are part of the voting academy. I have friends who vote for the Grammys who are Black and brown and have their say. And so it also is a little bit of a slap in the face for the Black and brown artists who do win, because then it's like, well, did you deserve it? Did you, what did you have to do? And at the end of the day, like I said, if you feel like the Grammys are biased, and let's be honest, they are. I just think that you just need to land on one side. But the back and forth, I just can't do. But I give kudos to everyone who has won one.
That.
Right.
I agree with that. And I also think the one part that I kind of disagreed with was you get artists that boycott the Grammys. You get artists that don't view the Grammys as the pinnacle of what you can get musically. Like Drake, I hate to use him because y'all know I love Drake. Drake doesn't support the Grammys, but Drake is number 1, 2, and 3 right now on the charts. The Grammys will ultimately fade. It's going to have to turn into something else. Regardless of people's expertise in the academy, if the diversity is not there and they can push that with mainstream music, it's not, I don't see a future
But
in
let's
the
Right.
also
Grammys.
be honest, as people who are in the music industry, just like you said that the Grammys, you do these charity events and you basically buy your Grammy, the same thing can be said about being number one on the charts. Like units can be bought.
Agreed.
Chart
Agreed.
numbers can
Agreed.
be purchased.
Right.
You look at
Agreed.
Diana Ross.
Agreed.
Diana Ross is a diva, a legend in music. You will never ever not
Agreed.
hear about Diana Ross. She's never won a Grammy for her music ever,
Right.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah.
ever.
That's true. That's true.
Right.
And
I
I
saw a
don't think
graphic
that she's
recently.
living in her millions, giving a damn about it. Like,
Right.
Yeah. I think you're starting to
long
get
as
more
not Shaq
artists now.
is, girl.
Yeah, I think you're starting to get more artists now that don't really care much about it, and that can come from not winning the Grammy. That can come from not getting it or being up. Most of the time, it's people that are up for Grammys that don't win them. So I get where that portion of it would come from. But you're right. I think that ultimately, we'll just have to see. Like, if it's not going to be diversified, then it won't make any sense moving forward.
Right.
Like,
And
I think a lot of
if
our
anything,
local shows will. Go ahead. Sorry, Rogelio.
No, you're fine. I think if anything, the low ratings will be kind of a wake up call.
Yeah.
Since so many more people are being like less and less invested in the Grammys, then hopefully that'll be a wake up call and they'll start trying to make more efforts to diversify the board or, whoever is, yeah, it's a board, right? Yeah, that. Trying to diversify the Grammys as a whole. So that's my hope. But I also agree with Daniel that like, I think that this dichotomy is really kind of like, it doesn't make sense. I think you can want the Grammys to improve and also recognize that it's important to get diversity in there while also realizing that it's not everything and that a lot of our institutions are flawed and that we shouldn't put weight behind it. Nigel, I wanted to see what your opinion was.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times with the Grammys now, I think artists, a lot of it just take advantage of the promotion. They have the opportunity to reach a more mainstream audience. And in the last couple of years, a lot of queer artists have had the opportunities to be nominated and perform. Like this year, shout out to Brittany Howard, a queer woman of color, winning Best Rock Song at the Grammys. She's phenomenal. And then, last year, Sophie getting a historic nomination, being one of the first trans people ever to get nominated. She should have won. Rest in peace. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a trend that we'll get to see improve over coming years. And I think reality is starting to slap the Grammys in the face. And if they don't deliver, fair judgments and honor people that deserve to be, then people are not going to watch.
Look at Nigel. You fit right in.
Right.
I'm heated.
But no, going off of that last piece about Sophie, I want to talk about another trans icon because if you all are paying attention, Elliot Page came out with his feature on Time Magazine, his cover, which I thought was amazing to see. It's been about 6 years since we got the very famous cover that Laverne Cox did in 2015. She was on the cover of Time Magazine, which was a huge deal for the trans community. So it's amazing to see that 6 years later, like the same magazine is featuring Elliot. And I also think it's great just for like trans men having like representation because, the concentration is often on trans women. And that's, for a reason. Trans women are still the ones facing the brunt of issues in our community. But I think that trans men often don't have like a figure to look up to, somebody to like, see themselves in media. And representation, even though I think it's like not as important as some people make it out to be, is still, a huge deal. So I'm glad that Elliot Page is really rising up to be this, representative for trans men. And hopefully he'll, be an influence for some people to latch on to.
Well said.
Awesome.
Right.
I just
Does
want the
anybody
Academy
else
to come back. I just want the Umbrella Academy to just hurry up and come back with that next season, honey.
Right.
There's an article about Elliot talking about his top surgery that he just underwent, and really saying that he feels so much like himself. Like it's such a blessing to be able to go through a transformation, go through a transition, and look at the person in the mirror and finally see who you want and need to see. So definitely, I think that that's a beautiful journey. I think and I also think that it's beautiful that Elliot is as open as he's been in the midst of, his transition to really talk about the topic, because we don't see, trans men. I mean, granted, Elliot is still a white man, But again, I think it's a step in the right direction if we're looking at the trans community as a whole. It's a step in the right direction for trans masculine individuals.
Right. Now we have somebody other than Chaz Bono to, point to as a famous trans man, right? Did anybody else have any pop culture news that they wanted to talk about or bring up today?
I have to talk about this because it's bugging me. I want to know why Trey Songz is slobbering spit down the mouths of two women. So I woke up to my Twitter feed in disarray because Trey Songz was apparently in a photo shoot looking, the body was right. Okay, I'm not gonna hold you. The body was right, but he had two women kneeling before him with their tongues out, and he was hawking up spit and letting it dribble down into their mouth. And a lot of people don't know how to take that. Now,
I wouldn't have minded it. I wouldn't.
From Trey Songz, I wouldn't either. But in the age of COVID, it is a little crazy.
Yeah, and that's what it is.
Pre-COVID, that would have been perfectly fine.
And he also tested positive for COVID-19 in October. So for someone
that's a big issue.
Right.
That's a big issue.
Those issues, I don't know if it's the smartest thing, Trey.
I just think that at the end
explain to me what was happening.
At the end of the day, I feel like because I saw the picture, and I'm just going to speak from my personal experience. I thought it was hot. Spit in my mouth, I'm okay with it. But that's like pre-COVID though. Like post-COVID, I don't want that to go anywhere near my mouth. Like let's keep this very like PG-13. But
keep the masks on.
Right. I thought it was hot. I thought it was a very, very nice picture. If this hadn't been, during a pandemic, I would have probably wanted him to spit in my mouth.
Okay, I just found it. Oh,
I'm just saying.
Check it out later.
You okay, Nigel?
Right.
Nigel is flourished. She done turned all kinds of red.
Anyway,
was this a feature for his OnlyFans? Because
does he have one?
Well, yeah, because he had that famous leak a couple of weeks ago, right?
Oh, right. All the girls have the OnlyFans now.
We can't show it. We can't show it here, but you'll be able to find it.
Right.
It's horrible. Can we all agree?
Right. I mean,
I did.
Okay. I'll keep it PG-13.
I did briefly want to touch base because I know some people watching have been having a conversation, but I know we have like 8 more minutes. But this Kirk Franklin video that is all over the internet of him yelling at his son. I don't know if anybody else has seen it. I'm not a big radio person.
He was cussing his son the hell out.
Well,
wait, how old is his son? Like a child?
I don't want to. No, he's 33. I don't want to make it sound worse than what it was. To me, in my opinion, I'm just saying, in my opinion, you see a lot of people that are like judging his parenting skills and him as a Christian. And I think that it's unrealistic to think that Christian people can't I don't want to say stand up for themselves because we don't know the circumstance, but I am a son and I have a younger brother. And I know that my mom raised the both of us, and I know what kind of SHIT we used to get into. And I know what my mom used to say to us to get us to get back on track. I viewed this video as Kirk Franklin talking to his son as a father would when his son effed up. I don't feel like this is a bad thing, and I don't have any kids. So I don't feel like I could, judge this man's parenting. But if you guys have heard it, what did y'all think?
I didn't.
So, well, let's give context for those who have not heard it. For those of you, first of all, if you don't know who Kirk Franklin is, he is an award-winning gospel artist, very huge in the Christian gospel community, and him and his son have always had a tumultuous relationship. They've been in and out of therapy for a very long time, and so what happened was this past week, his son recorded a portion of their argument and blasted it to social media. And you can hear Kirk Franklin calling him all kinds of bitchs and how you're not going to disrespect me. And the problem that people had with the conversation was the type of language that Kirk used against his son, regardless of his age. Mm-hmm. My personal opinion, however, is this. If we're going to pass out blame, let's pass it out evenly and fairly. If you, as a 33-year-old man who he said, I'm a grown-ass man in the video, Should Kirk have used that language as a father and an elder? No. Should his son have recorded just that portion of the conversation and blasted it so to make himself look innocent and his father look like this abusive, good for nothing dad? No. Do they both need therapy? Yes. And one of the
Very
things
true.
that Kirk came out and said was that part of the conversation that his son didn't play was that during that conversation, he actually called the therapist and had the therapist on the phone to mediate the conversation. It's very evident that they have a tumultuous relationship. I don't think that any of us who don't understand their relationship, who don't know their relationship, I don't think that we should have too much of an opinion on it, because
Not really.
none of us are living a level of perfection. Regardless of what your job is and what your celebrity title, none of us are living in perfection.
Yeah.
Right.
I also feel like you need to have a son. You need to have kids. You need to be in that predicament to kind of understand where the frustration comes from. There's a lot of people that don't have children commenting on his parent skills. That's asinine. You can't do that. That's like, it just doesn't make any sense. I just know from what I was seeing online, he seemed very remorseful for it. I don't think it's just because his son recorded a portion of the conversation. I don't think I really don't think that was him. I think that kind of just came out, and people are allowed to make mistakes.
Right. I think if anything,
I would have done a lot better. I'll definitely say that.
Right. I think if anything, like it gets really messy when you like plug like family drama in a social media space, because like nobody is ever going to know the context. Nobody knows the family history there and what like led to that confrontation. And while you can say from an outside perspective that like nobody should ever talk like that to their children, I think to, take it and run with it and make it like bigger than what it is just like not a very smart thing to do. I think that a lot of family things, we can never know the full context of that. But again, I also haven't heard it. So I really...
Yeah, you should probably listen
my
to
biggest
that.
issue with Kirk Franklin was the public apology. That was my biggest issue. I felt like he didn't need to apologize to the public
at all.
I don't think that we need or deserve an apology, and I don't think that it's going to help their relationship, because it's also like you're sitting up here apologizing to the world who you don't know, and I'm your son who you have the issue with. So I did, as a public person, I didn't need you to apologize to my ass because you didn't cuss me out.
At all. Thought he did a good job. Thought he was good. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't know, because you guys haven't heard it. So is there anything else on Hot Topics that we should probably cover?
Did you guys hear about the Catholic Church in like the Vatican or something, like publicly saying that they condemn like same-sex marriage? I think it happened like today or yesterday. They put out like a statement.
Is that something new?
Right. I don't take anything
like, seriously.
I don't take anything seriously from the Catholic Church, because these are the same people who actively have covered up the sexual abuse of like, and trigger warning for those who, are triggered by that kind of thing, but who have actively covered up the sexual abuse of thousands, who knows how many countless young children. So I don't really care what comes out of the Vatican and them, not liking same-sex marriage or anybody who's willing to kiss the Pope's ass just because he's a little bit more progressive than other popes have been in the past. I'm just like, the Catholic Church is the Catholic Church. But with that being said,
I feel like if
we actually have to go to commercial. Right, exactly. But they don't even know that or learn that. But anyway, with that, we have to go to commercial. And when we'll be back, we'll have our main topic and be bringing on our special guest, Marty. So stay tuned for that.
Hey guys, Ty here from APLA Health, and I got some good news for you. APLA Health is launching our first ever at-home HIV testing initiative.
As we battle the global pandemic of COVID-19 and all that it entails,
APLA Health is doing what we can to fill the gaps for those who are in need of knowing their status, linking to care, and having safer sex options.
The initiative, officially known as Swab and Chill, will be our virtual hub for those seeking to take an HIV test, receive HIV kits, link into medical care for those who are HIV positive, while also having access to several other programs and services that specialize in harm reduction for HIV infection.
Such services include private PEP information as well as substance abuse services. Our goal with Swab and Chill is to make HIV testing easily accessible and easy to use within the comfort of your own home.
We provide each client with the Oral Quick at-home testing kit. This kit is a simple test that is done by orally swabbing the gums and waiting 20 minutes for your results.
APLA staff is available to virtually assist you while taking the test, while providing resources and support for those who may test positive.
maybe you already know your status and you're just low on condoms and lube due to accessibility. No problem. We can also send you one of our safer sex kits right to your front door.
As we strive to keep our community safer and well-informed, your privacy is also a high priority.
All packaging will appear from APLA Health. Our over-the-phone assessments are quick, easy, and secure, so you can feel safe in sharing your results with us and asking any questions that you may have.
If you or someone that you know is interested in having one of our at-home testing kits mailed to you, or you just want more information on what Swab and Chill we provide, please call one of our team members at 323-329-9713, or just email us.
Come swab and chill with 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 us.
Welcome back, everybody. That was a great commercial break. You know, back when Kai and I were bald at the top of the pandemic. Hilarious. Hilarious to see like how different we all look. It's so funny, actually.
It is. It's very interesting. Like I look at it and I'm kind of like, oh, we need to do an updated one.
Right.
Can I be in it next time?
Yes, absolutely.
You'll have
Nigel.
to be. You'll have to be.
I'm not doing the editing. Someone can take that on.
Right. We can send that to communication.
God bless.
There we go. That way.
Right. But anyway, we are back, and now we are going to into our main topic, which is our part 2 of our mental health check-in. And that is going to be with our special guest, Marty. So Marty is a therapist. He's also a Black queer man. So we are really excited to have his perspective and also just bring whatever questions we may have that are relevant to the conversation, since therapy is definitely something that a lot of us in the community need for more reasons than one. But anyway, with that, I'd love to bring on Marty. Come on, music.
Wait, I get an intro. Look at that. Hey. What's going on, everybody?
How are you,
Hi,
Marty?
Hello. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Lovely.
Would you mind giving us a bit of an introduction, just telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, a fun fact?
Fun facts. Well, I'm Marty Sellers. I like to call myself now the mental health hygienist here, and I have a business in the IE called Marcel Consulting and Mental Health Services. So I've been doing this thing called mental health and therapy for a greater part of 15 years, and just excited about doing this. One of my passions is helping men of color, and then doing some partnership with you guys with APLA and Healthy Him specifically. I've been working with you guys kind of partnership for about almost 3 years plus in that. So love doing what we're doing. Fun fact. I don't know. What's a fun fact? I'm boring? I don't know.
Well, I mean,
Fun fact is you have a better microphone than any of us, for sure.
You sound like you are about to introduce the top 10 on late night radio.
Well, listen, this is what we do.
Yeah.
You know, I got it when I started doing podcasting. So I've done podcasting for about a year and wanted to invest in my brand. And that's what I do with doing that. And
You're going to need to share that link for all of us to get this microphone.
What's the Spotify for it?
It's simple. Mental Health Matters with Marty.
There we go. That works.
Mental Health Matters with Marty.
that.
Yes.
Right.
Would love for you guys to join and be a part of it. And I need to have you guys on my show. I would love to have you guys on that and talk about mental health in the in our communities of color with LGBTQ and what that looks like. And even doing a segment on trans, because we don't talk a lot about trans and what we do. Oh, fun fact. I have 3 kids. I have a do not judge me 30-year-old. My son turns 23 on tomorrow, and I have a 5-year-old. Do not judge me on that one
so
at all. That Baptist blood comes out.
On tonight.
On tonight, yes. Can I just make a comment about the Kirk Franklin thing?
Oh, for sure.
Please, I want to know your input.
Well, I called some sources that do know Kurt quite well. And this has been going on for years. And so, you know, one, I agree totally with what everyone has been saying. Kurt's a human being just like any of us. Just because we wear the badge in honor of Christendom or whatever your religious belief might be or your spirituality, we all have a breaking point. I do know that they have been going to therapy for years. They've sought counseling from T.D. Jakes and some of the giants in Christendom themselves with that. And it's been a tumultuous relationship for most of, from what I was told, this young man's life, that he's kind of abused and acting like a spoiled, entitled child. And that, you know, Kurt and the family has done several things to try and mend that broken relationship. And at some point, me being a father, I get it. And being transparent, you know, my son shared with me that he doesn't want to follow in my steps and he doesn't want to be at the job and he doesn't want to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, okay, I accept it. I don't agree. I accept it and I grant you your wish. And it can be devastating at times. And I had to go back and say, Marty, it's not about you. It really is about pushing and encouraging your son.
Right.
And so I had to push my own feelings aside. Now, Kurt and I are totally two different people. I don't know Kurt Franklin at all. I don't know, you know, for me, I have certain boundaries. You know, but I don't know what pushes. I've been to the point where I've been pushed before, and done some things because I grew up in a domestic violent household and I've gotten angry where and I can say this, not gloating about it, but out of shame that I did get help. I have taken, my daughter's mother got so angry and slammed her and pushed her through a window pane and it broke and everything while I had my daughter, in there and that became second nature and I had to go get help with that. So we never know what was the snapping point. We all have a breaking point in our lives. I don't know what Kurt's breaking point was. But I do, Daniel, agree with you. Was there an apology needed? That was a private matter that his son exposed publicly. And too often, I think we feel pressure from church, from our careers, that our careers might fail. And even when people are talking about, we're not going to support him anymore, stop. You know, my daughter was the first one. I still support Kirk Franklin. We will not blackball him or cut him off. And I put it on Melodies from Heaven. And so that whole trend, people that I put it on Revolution, I put it on Smile with that. So they're just naming all these Kirk Franklin songs. We cannot continue to throw out the baby with the bathwater just because Sugar Honey Iced Tea gets dirty. We all got some baggage. We all got some
Right.
things that we're not proud of. But
I'm actually really happy that you just brought that up. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
You are giving us the truth right now. I'm happy that you shared that, one, but then also two, it actually sparked a question in my mind. So
Okay.
you mentioned that people have breaking points, and
Yes.
people have those moments where they get to the point where like all of these emotions kind of get capsized, and then ultimately boom, it explodes, right? And your
Right.
expertise specifically with communities of color.
Yes.
How often do you see that? And what is your advice to those communities of color that, feel like everything is kind of just on us,
Mm-hmm. I have seen this year, because in 2020, because of, I call this a complicated year of grief, complicated PTSD, complicated sorrow, complicated depression, complicated anxiety. Not only do men of color, specifically black men, we are told not to be a punk. Can I say it this way? To man up. Who even knows what the term man up means? There's so many pressures that's put on us. Then we get that judged in our own communities. Then when we go outside of our communities, then we have to be careful. We can't put your hood on because you might be mistaken as a thug. And they don't ask you, because I've been put on the side of the curve at 2:00 in the morning in Orange County because I looked a certain way. And when they put that big light on me and the flashlight, and now I share that I'm a therapist, and now they back up, be like, oh, well, what are you doing here? What the hell you mean I'm doing here? Did I speed? Did I do whatever? So we have all of these things. We are carrying so many labels and judgment because they see our color. Then for men and those who have they label as being too effeminate, or in the trans community, we see the continual assault that's happening on our trans community. That begins to build up so much till the slightest thing, I like to call it the Coca-Cola syndrome. The slightest thing, we crack and we implode first before we explode, both doing collateral damage on ourselves and then we say, see, I told you he was nothing but a gay faggot that didn't mean anything, just like that. And so now we build, we don't mean to play into these quote unquote stereotypes. Now we have shame. And I believe what Kurt in his apology was dealing with, the shame of that.
Right.
Instead of saying, I had a breaking point. White men are allowed to have breaking points.
Bill O'Reilly.
We had a president that had one for 4 years.
Thank you. And
still,
yeah, and still the white culture, and I'll say the privileged rich white, the left evangelical, who justify it simply because the only reason they justify him, it hangs on two principles. Oh, I got political, didn't mean to. On homosexuality and abortions. That's the only reason, two reasons why they support those jackasses. Okay.
As you can see,
off, Marty.
he is very passionate about his art.
Right. We'll have more opportunity for popular opinions in our last segment too. But I wanted to ask a question. I wanted to ask a question about your own practice and how, we're all very familiar with the fact that, for a lot of people of color and a lot of queer people of color, it's really hard to even make the first step to reach out to seek help, because of the stigma that's associated with therapy, or because, everybody believes they don't need it, or it's only for people who are, crazy, quote unquote, right? So what do you do in your personal practice to just make or assure your clients that, it's a comfortable space to let them know that, they're safe to talk about the issues that are culturally relevant to them?
Most definitely. One of the things we strive is, one of our mantras is saying, I am heard. Too often we're forced to keep our mouths shut. We can't let out all of those deep hurt secrets and abuse and traumas that we've experienced. So we make it very safe. And I am purposeful about over 50%, if not 60% of my therapists are bilingual. and that we make sure that we go into Hispanic communities and letting them know it's okay. Because we in our black and brown communities, we do everything via word of mouth because we don't trust you anyway. And so when you have that and say, listen, I can relate. Part of what we do, we just opened up a foster family agency that is specific to those children who are at the border, who are coming across, those undocumented children that ICE has separated them. And so 3 of my therapists were born here, but their siblings and their parents were those same children who were separated at the border. So we thrive and we try to make it safe for communities of color, especially black men. In because of everything that's going on, I've had more referrals in this past year of black men, and we're doing still everything virtual right now. I'm talking about these A-type alpha men. When I ask, who are you and why are you here? That go on to the full Oprah ugly cry on camera because they're hurting so bad. So, Rogelio, what we try to do is create a safe space where you can let go of all that and not be judged.
Right.
March is... Go ahead, Ty.
Sorry, if I can, you said something really important. Therapy sessions are virtual, currently. How do you create that personal aspect through the computer? Because therapy, like you said, in communities of color is a very sensitive topic. Right. So not being able to kind of see you, like we know you, so we know the passion that you have for your work. Like I feel like you're sitting in front of me right now having a conversation with me. Because like you said, you've done work with Healthy Him for 3 years. Right. When you are meeting a new client and they identify in those communities of color, whether queer or straight, how do you create that personal aspect that, one, they fear because, they're telling you all of their business, but then also, 2, that they feel comfortable?
It's been a little bit easier because of the pandemic. Had the pandemic not happened, and so many of us now are forced to use Zoom and so many other social media platforms, FaceTime and all of that. So it's definitely becoming more comfortable. I even have a 70-year-old client that we do this through, that we walk them through all the technology and all of those things. Yeah. So it's definitely becoming more comfortable because the pandemic has made it that way. I am slowly going back into face-to-face. I only do it on Saturdays when none of my other staff are around. My administrative team and myself, we've been all fully vaccinated, but only those patients who have been vaccinated I see, I should say it that way, face-to-face as well, because I still want to err on the side of being safe with that. But it is more challenging. So I have to turn Marty up even that much more so that we try and break that barrier between that.
Marty in 3D.
Marty in 3D. But this month also
Marty,
is... Go ahead, Daniel.
I have a question for you. Based on something that came up in our part 1 of this conversation, we talked about therapy and how it pertains to seeing a therapist that looks like you, being a person of color, going into a therapy session with a person that looks like you. Within that conversation, though, there's also, from what I've heard from people who are seeking therapy, there's this fear that just because you look like me, your progression to the proximity of whiteness can alter the experience. And so my question to you is, as a therapist, as a man of color, how do you navigate spaces with clients who don't look like you?
Yeah, that's interesting. Depends on the client. Now, there are some. I have a contract with Riverside County. They don't get a choice. I'm sorry. You here because your kids have been taken away. Now, I might refer you to one other person, but baby, you don't get the carte blanche because you're being paid through the county. But we will have that conversation. And I actually have had I had a white male that came in, and I gave him a horribly discounted rate that he would never get anymore because I was early in my phase. And he was just like, well, I don't like black people. I said, well, I don't like ignorant people. So we're even. So let's get started.
Boom.
And then later he just simply says, oh my God, you are the best therapist I ever had. I said, well, because I wasn't letting you off the hook.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept challenging him. Now he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but that's a whole nother story. And that was my best diagnosis of him in that. But I do have those conversations, especially with I have one client who she's Hispanic and she's been raped several times. I've been raped by a black man. And when that came out, I'm like, wait, let's time out. How do you feel me being a black male and being your therapist? And she's like, I chose you specifically for that reason because I needed to get over that fear and I feel safe with you. And so Daniel, to kind of answer your question is, I will ask, are we good? How are you feeling about me? Let me show you how I'm feeling about you. And I have before said, you know what? I'm not the right fit for you. And what I want to do is offer to a couple other people that could possibly be a better fit for you in those regards as well. Because finding the right therapist, just because they may look like you, still doesn't mean that they're the right therapist.
That's very true.
Yes.
That part.
Yeah. And you can fire your therapist and look for someone else.
I have.
I don't doubt that with you.
I have several times actually.
Right. Most definitely.
Do you find that a lot of therapists in that position do you find that a lot of therapists in that position are like you, that they actually address and have that conversation, or do you find that a lot of therapists kind of don't want to touch the I'm not the same color as you topic?
Ooh, that's a good one. At my firm here, we intentionally are intentional about people we hire because we hire for fit. And I can teach you skill. I can't teach you fit. I can't teach you culture. And so my interviewing process is extremely heavy on the fit and culture side. And I stress, if you cannot be culturally competent and confident, then I am not the right fit for you. Because, and I said, these are the populations that we serve. Are you going to be intimidated by that? Because if you are, again, you're not the right therapist for us, Marcel Consulting. And so we have that conversation, and it's a part of our intake process, especially if you're paying cash. When I'm paying cash, I get the right to say what and who I want.
Yes!
Now, insurance, because I'm sorry, my cash rate is not cheap. So, you get the right to say, higher end of 250, 200, 250 a session. And so I'm going to push you hard. So you get the right to say that, because I know I have a specialty. And right now, black male therapists are a hot commodity. So, baby, you can't get me for basement bargain cheap if I'm in demand.
Right.
You said something really, really important on our comments on our last conversation about this. You said, I see a therapist as a therapist. And so many people saw that comment and they're like, wow, wouldn't have never thought that. You know what I mean? Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I actually spoke to my therapist yesterday. Now, my therapist is in Dallas because that's how I found one there. But I keep my therapist, one, to keep me sane. And I can tell when I have not seen him. I'm like, okay, I'm about to lose it.
Absolutely.
I always say that therapy is for those who are trying to maintain their sanity. When you keep saying, I don't need one, I'm like, oh, okay, well, you're not ready to be sane. You like living in that delusional world and keep living in it. And I have several patients who, some executives and even some social media people who used to have 1 million followers. That's a whole nother story. But they seek therapy to maintain their sanity, to flesh out. So although I'm a therapist for about a good 25% of my patients, I'm really a life coach and a balancing coach for them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I see my therapist to make sure, one, that I'm integral and ethical in my approach, but also to make sure that I maintain balance myself. Because there's nothing worse than having a therapist who does not make sure that they're balanced and they're not practicing what they preach.
Right.
That's true.
Exactly.
That is very true.
And we actually have to go to commercial before our last segment. But before we go, Nigel, is there anything you wanted to ask Marty?
Yes, I wanted to ask. I think I'm the only one here that actually hasn't seen a therapist yet, but it's something I've always really wanted to, but I've always been kind of uncomfortable or unsure
Sure.
about where to even go about doing that. Do you have any recommendations on someone who's thinking about it and where to start looking for a therapist?
Yeah, there's lots of for therapists. There's a Psychology Today. Is a great one because now everyone has pictures and they even have video clips now of them. Hey, you should choose me as your therapist because I'm going to da da da. So you can do that. There's Good Therapists, and it's broken down by your zip code where you live, and it tells you kind of what their expertise is in. It shows their insurance plans, how much they charge, and from there even ask for a free consult that you can do so that you can see if they're a right fit for you. Because you get to interview your therapist. You don't have to take the first one that your insurance plan may give you.
Exactly.
Ask them for a free consult. And they'll give it to you and say, even if that's, I don't know even why. I've been wanting to see a therapist. I don't even know what we need to talk about, but I just want to balance my life out. And that's perfectly fine.
Right. It is what you make of it for sure.
That's right.
So now moving on to the last section, we're going to be doing our Square Up section, my personal favorite, where we each get to share an unpopular opinion. So I'll go ahead and start us off because I have one related to mental health. I think that the age of social media, while it's done a lot for awareness and all that, I think that it's also kind of been a double-edged sword in some cases because I feel like sometimes people use mental health almost as an excuse not to show up for people. Everybody knows the line now, oh, I don't have the capacity to help you with that. I don't have the capacity to hear you.
I can't hold the space.
Right, I can't hold the space for you. Everybody knows those like two cliche lines. And, I feel like some people almost take advantage of the fact that it's become popular to say that and to be, woke on mental health, but almost take it to the point where they're not even supporting the people in their life because of some, they're looking out for themselves, but, they end up never having those conversations. They end up never showing up for your friends. So I think part of it is also realizing that sometimes in a lot of your relationships, it's a give and a take. You have to make sacrifices and show up for people, even when you're not feeling your best. And that's definitely a lesson I've had to learn. So yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. I agree. I'll pick, Nigel, go ahead.
Oh, no, yeah, I was just saying, I agree. I mean, like, sometimes I'd be going through it, but, I can't help you, but I'll listen. Like, that's the bare minimum I can do at that time. Moment, I may not have all the insight, but, talk to me. Whenever, midnight, you're crying, let's go.
Exactly.
And then also to piggyback off of those 2 points, too, I guess my unpopular opinion would be if you are aware that you need some sort of assistance as far as, like, mental health and stuff like that, invest in that assistance. And like Rogelio said, don't use your current state as an excuse to be an a-hole. Like, so many people will sit there and say, I flipped out on you because I'm just going through so much. I'm not one of those things that's so much that you're going through. So it's hard to justify why people are mean to people because they're in these dark spaces sometimes. I don't think that should be an excuse. If you are aware that you have a lot on your plate, definitely seek help. I know it's easier said than done, but there's so many resources now where you can access these things. So yeah, don't use your mental health as an excuse to be an a-hole.
Right. Great one. Daniel?
My unpopular opinion is probably going to be, as much as I advocate for mental health, I'm a great friend of his, but I always recommend a therapist because I'm not certified. But I have an issue with people who use mental health as a crutch in this way. I know that mental health is important. I know that we all have to do our part to keep to keep ourselves healthy. But there are a lot of people in a workspace that try to use mental health to get out of doing work, and I have a problem with that. At the end
Ain't
of
that the
the
truth?
day,
Right.
at the end of the day, you have a job to do. And there's only so much grace that can be given to a human being about your dog dying and you going through, a breakup, and you felt depressed last night. And there's room and balance for that. But honey, if
Exactly.
you just don't want to work, then I need you to give your 2 weeks resignation and go on a mental health journey and go get unemployment, because
Uh-oh.
the job still needs to get done. And at the end of the day, business still needs to go forth. And especially for us who work in public
Right.
health, it's important. You have to understand you are showing up for somebody else. And if you are not mentally in the space to be able to do that, then you may have to make that decision that right now I probably shouldn't be working. I need to go fix me.
Right.
But don't use it as a crutch just so you can keep getting this check. And then you're not doing the work and servicing the community who needs
Y'all see
you.
the
Exactly.
hands. Y'all see the hands.
Right.
Y'all see the hands.
But no,
That's how
Very
you know
Taurus.
it's
Very
serious.
Taurus.
we all have things
Very
going
Taurus.
on. That's such a good point, because like
We
everybody has
do.
their own issues, and it's also like if you're stressed out, if you're anxious, okay, honey, let's get you some therapy. Let's see if you will benefit from medication. But like, don't
Hopefully I
continue
don't
to
get
use it
tired
as
of
an
saying this.
excuse.
Sometimes I got to put my own shit in a bag, put it on the shelf, go do this job, and deal with it afterward. That's just the reality of the situation.
Right.
I don't
Saying.
ignore it,
Very
but
good
at
saying.
the end of the day, I still have a job to do.
Right.
Yeah.
All
What
right.
about you, Marty? What's your unpopular opinion?
I think I totally agree with all those. One of my unpopular opinion is that we expect mental health services to be for free, or
Yeah.
that I'm not supposed to make a paycheck or make a living out of it. I actually had someone says, "I hope you're not charging for mental health services." I said, "This, how else am I going to make a living?"
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I still have student loans to pay off. So yes,
Yeah.
I am charging. Now I will respect it, or that people don't respect me enough to cancel an appointment, and then when I charge them a no-show fee, they get mad
Come
and pissed
on,
off
no
at
show
me.
fee.
Yes.
Oh yes,
Cancellation
listen,
fee.
cancellation fee. That happens. I need a 48-hour notice, or I will
Agreed.
charge you the first
Agreed.
time 50% of the session. The second time I will charge you for the full session, and you will go back onto my waiting list.
Right.
Listen.
Come on.
Do not waste my time.
Right. I like that.
I
Really
got
quickly.
bills.
Exactly.
Really quickly, Rogelio, if you don't mind, for our ending. Marty, if there's someone watching, contemplating mental
Yes.
health services and just doesn't know where to go, how to take that first step, or not sure that they, should take that first step, what would you say to that person?
Wait, before that, I don't think Nigel gave his unpopular opinion.
Oh, sorry.
If you have something to add.
I don't know. I think to me, just like lying about saying that you're going to show up for someone and then not doing it, just like that's not
Ooh.
it. I feel like there are a lot of people that we've met be like, I'm here for you whenever you need me. And then when push comes to shove, like, where are you?
Exactly.
I think we need to cancel that.
That's
Yeah, I
good.
agree.
That's good.
Yeah.
So
Marty,
to
take
answer-
us out.
Yes, to answer your question, definitely don't be afraid of mental health services. Don't, if you thought about it, go ahead and do it. What will it hurt? You're already in, most of us are in a bad situation, or we're out of this, in this vicious cycle anyway. I always share this. My job is not to tell you what to do. My job is to notice negative patterns and notice patterns in your life. You have the tool and the power to make changes in your life. I'm there to encourage you. I'm there to help you dissect the situations or scars that might have been keeping you from doing and living your best life. I want what you want, your peace, your happiness, and your freedom. That's why I say it's so important that we don't continue to secretly suffer in silence in the shadow of shame, but we have to speak up, speak out, and we have to live. That's my commercial.
We did a
I love
song
that.
together.
Sure.
We did a song together, and he said that in the song. It comes out later next year. But yeah,
Yes.
shameless plug. Shameless plug.
Right.
It is. I love thank you for that
Yes.
plug, though. Yes.
Absolutely.
I couldn't think of
Yes.
a better way to end. Thank you so much for everything,
Lovely.
Marty. You were an
Thank
amazing
you.
guest, and I hope that everybody watching and everybody here was able to take something. So with that, we'll be back next week for another episode of The Link. Bye, everybody.
We love you, Marty.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Likewise.
Thank
Love
you
you
so
guys.
much.